There's nothing better than freshly baked scones. I love the smell of them, particularly in the morning. So I'm going to show you a brekkie version using blueberries and almonds. So let's start with the dough. I've got some self-raising flour we're going to place into a bowl. And there are so many different ways of doing scones. Sometimes I use buttermilk, sometimes I use lemonade and cream. They work a treat. But this time I'm going to show you a version using some cold butter. So in with some cold butter cubes. And this is going to give us a really lovely texture, so they're going to be quite flaky. To this I'm going to add some caster sugar because they're sweet scones, and we're just going to give everything a bit of a mix to start with. Now what I like to do is just use the tips of my fingers to break up the butter. And there is something quite therapeutic about doing this, splitting that butter and really teasing it into the self-raising flour. So self-raising flour, it has a rising agent, so we don't need to add any baking powder at all. And you just want to do this little by little until we get a bit of a shaggy effect. And when I say shaggy effect, you'll see big lumps, small lumps of butter just being really crumbled into that flour. So you want to keep working that. And as you'll notice, I'm just using the tips of my fingers. I use the tips of my fingers because I don't want to overheat that butter. We want to keep it as cold as possible as we combine it with that flour. So keep breaking it up and folding it in the flour. And once you're happy with the consistency, as in most of that butter has been split up, we can start adding some liquids to this. So make a well in the centre to really accentuate that almond flavour, which really goes nicely with blueberries. I'm adding a bit of almond extract. Totally optional, you don't need to add this, but you only need the smallest amount because it is quite strong. And then we can start incorporating our milk. So a little bit of milk, and I'll grab a butter knife, and this is a little trick my Auntie Iris showed me when she makes her very famous scones. They are sensational. She uses a knife, and a lot of people out there do too, to combine this because we don't want to overwork that flour. So we're little by little, we're adding the milk and just folding it through to form one big ball of dough. All right, now that's coming together nicely, we can start incorporating our blueberries. You need to use fresh blueberries for this, just so they hold their shape. Another little trick to ensure that they stay intact is to just place them into a bowl with a bit of corn flour. I'm going to dust them with the corn flour, and by doing that, we're just protecting them slightly, so as they cook, the moisture will be captured by that corn flour. So just a small amount of corn flour, and just get your hands in there and just dust them. And then this can now go into our scone dough along with some almonds. So I'm just using some flaked almonds. And again, use our knife just to combine everything together. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. So we'll take the knife out, and I'm just going to pour all of this mixture onto a clean board. Just carefully so none of those blueberries run away. And now we're just going to use a little bit of a kneading effect here just to combine everything together so we have our dough. Again, just being really careful when you're kneading it, not to overwork it. If you do overwork it, we're going to get a tough scone. We don't want that. We don't want it to be dense. We want it to be really crumbly and light. So just work that. See how you can see little bits of butter there? That's what we're after. All right, this is coming together. And we'll just press that into a large disc. It's okay if some of the berries crush. I'll grab a little flour and also a rolling pin. We're just going to roll this out so it's about 3 centimetres. And then bring it together and then roll it out again. Now we can start forming them into scones. So grab some more flour. I like to just place a cutter into the flour. It just makes it so much easier to cut our scones straight down. See how they'll come out really easily if you do that? That's what we're after. Now you can make these into small scones or large ones. These are between 6 to 8 centimetres. I'll place this onto a tray, and before you place them in the oven, just brush them with a little bit of milk, and that's going to give it a lovely crust. So I'll continue making these, and they go into the oven quite hot, 220 degrees for about 12 to 15 minutes. blueberry scones are out of the oven, they're piping hot, and you can serve them at room temperature if you like, or serve them immediately. And the trick to cutting these in half, you can use a serrated knife, or just grab that butter knife again and go around it like this, and you'll see that you'll get that perfect cut every time. Oh, look at that. When you've got blueberries that are bursting with flavour like these are, you don't need jam, it's like jam itself. But you do need a little bit of butter. So some butter on each side, just let that melt away. And I think when you have scones like this, a cup of tea is essential. I'm gonna have a little taste. There's something so nostalgic about cups of tea and scones, and that extra little touch of almond and blueberry makes them super special. I love scones.